Marco, how are you? I'll talk to you how he's stressed from work.
Next week should be better.
We just work and work and work, and we just don't have enough downtime. That's too bad. I'm sorry. Well, you know, I wish. Hello. I wish.
Pursuant to Section 84-1411 of the Nebraska statutes, notice of this meeting was given on September the 2nd, 2022. The meeting will convene at 6:05 p.m. and visitors may obtain a request to be heard form from staff for any presentation they may have for the meeting. In accordance with policy, the request to be heard forms must be submitted to the secretary within the first 5 minutes of the board meeting in order to be heard at this meeting. Agenda items are subject to reordering at the discretion of the board president. Please attend the entire meeting to ensure you are able to hear any discussion.
Tonight's meeting.
Yeah, so you gotta go back. And
And
you
then
go
it's up
to
there.
where's that budget meeting here? Budget board here, agenda?
Yeah. But I'm in on the
I
top.
understand that. And roll
Okay.
down,
Uh-huh.
scroll down. And then you can hit the presentation. And then you can see it yourself since it's real close and easy for
Oh,
you to see.
okay. Because the public is supposed
And
to
the,
be looking
and the
too.
public could go on there and do that same thing.
Those that are sitting here don't bring their laptop with them.
Some people, right, but they could, I think it depends on where you sit.
Pursuant to Section 84-1411 of the Nebraska statutes, the next regular meeting of the Board of Education of Douglas County School District 0001 and the Board of Educational Service Unit Number 19 will be held on Thursday, September 22nd, 2022, at 6 o'clock p.m. in the Board Meeting Room of the Teacher Administrative Center, 3215 Cumming Street. The agenda will be kept current and available for public inspection in the Office of the Secretary of the Board of Education at the Administrative Building during regular working hours. Please note that future board meetings will begin at 6 o'clock p.m. Pursuant to Section 84-1412 of the Nebraska statutes, the public is hereby informed that a current copy of the Nebraska Opens Meetings Act is posted in the board meeting room on the north wall. Please stand and join us for the presentation of colors and Pledge of Allegiance led by Omaha Central High School's JROTC.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Present. Arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Left, right. Face. Forward. March.
You may be seated. Vice President Erdenberger will lead us in the OPS vision and mission statement.
The vision, every student, every day, prepared for success, and the mission, to prepare all students for success in college, career, and life.
Roll call, Mr. Ray.
Cassidy.
Here.
Erdenberger.
Here.
Head.
Present.
Holman.
Present.
Juarez.
Here.
Cracky.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Snow. Thielen.
Here.
8 present.
Is there a motion to excuse Mr. Snow from tonight's board meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, moving on to board and superintendent communications. Mr. Ryan.
President Dr. Holman, Vice President Erdenberger, and members of the board, the financial statements for the period ended July 31st, 2022 have been finalized and submitted for your review. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Dr. Logan?
Good evening, Vice President Holman, Vice President Erdenberger, members of the Board of Education, those here in attendance, and those watching the stream. September is Attendance Awareness Month. Being present and ready to learn is the first step to success. Each of our school days has more than 400 minutes of learning. Each day and every minute is important. We strive for 95, missing fewer than 9 days of school each school year. As we transition from pandemic status to endemic status, it's time for all of us to get back on track and attend school regularly, whether we are children or adults. Students who attend school regularly are more likely to be on grade level academically, more likely to be connected socially, and more likely to graduate. Our families are key partners. Starting the year with strong attendance habits for our young people is really important. Each September, we also adopt our district budget. Thank you to Mr. Ryan and his team for the excellent budget presentation a few minutes ago. Our accounting and finance staff work all year to manage existing budgets and draft the next year's proposal, as well as always have a 5-year projection available. Following small group conversations with our Board of Education, we hosted our public budget hearing this evening. Omaha Public Schools will participate in Douglas County's joint public hearing on September 21st. Our board will meet again on September 22nd to finalize the budget and adopt the budget for the 22-23 school year. Our chief financial officer has and will speak in greater detail, but Omaha Public Schools may reduce its property tax levy for the 3rd consecutive year and 6 of the last 10. We have achieved that while investing in our students and employees amid ongoing staffing headwinds in education. We're looking to the future, regularly updating multi-year forecasts to plan and prepare financially. This commitment to financial accountability aligns with our strategic plan of action. In addition to public meetings, our community can find the proposed budget on our website, ops.org. Next week brings OPS Proud Week. Each September, our schools host open houses, and we celebrate the countless exceptional attributes of our district community. Visit our website and social media throughout the next week to see OPS Proud stories, as well as the websites and social media for your children's respective schools. Share what makes you OPS proud. Those here in attendance can take a picture in front of our backdrop outside the boardroom. Open houses are some of the many ways we are welcoming and engaging families this school year. I'll have more to share in our presentation later in this meeting. And lastly, congratulations. Congratulations are in order for Mike Hogan, afternoon host on KIOS FM, for winning both a gold and silver award from the Nebraska Broadcasters Association. Make sure to tune in next week as KIOS FM joins the OPS Proud Week celebration. Each day, Mike Hogan's live and local segment will feature our district. You can hear those features weekdays at 7:45 a.m. and 3:45 p.m. That concludes my remarks for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Logan. Colleagues? Ms. Cracky?
I'd like to give a shout out to the school secretaries in calling their schools, in visiting schools. They have been so gracious, so welcoming, and so pleasant that I just want to compliment them, and that if others call the school or go in there, they will be so pleased. And the first line of happiness in a school is the school secretary. So it's especially important that we have very good people there. And as one of them said to me, I just love my job. I love coming here. I love being a school secretary. So I just want to be sure we all are thankful for them, because it's hard to get people to help these days or almost do anything. And we have good people out there, and I want to especially thank them.
Thank you, Mrs. Cracky. Mr. Hitt?
Thank you, President Dr. Holman. First off, I missed the last board meeting, so I apologize for that. It was on the same night as back to school night at my daughter's school, and she's going into kindergarten, so I felt like that was one that I should probably be at. But I wanted to wish everyone who's starting off the school year, students, staff, anyone else a good school year. So I know it's a couple of weeks late now, but I know it's been great seeing smiling faces back in the buildings again, kids back in the classrooms. I've been to 2 middle schools now and about 10 elementaries so far this school year, and it's great going around talking with the principals, talking to the staff, hearing success stories already a short time into the school year. I also had the ability before the school year started to go to the event with astronaut Jose Hernandez down at Buena Vista. That was an excellent event for everybody who was able to attend. I know Miss Cassidy was there, Miss Juarez was there, Miss Erdenberger was there as well. Just hearing his story about how his second grade teacher, kind of changed his life trajectory, and how he's where he's at today, and the difference that education made in his life. And then we had the back to school bash there the very next day. Seeing all the smiling faces, all the excited kids there, students, parents. At the back to school bash, my second grade teacher, actually oddly enough, came up to me and said hi. She is at Franklin Elementary with OPS now. So it was great seeing her. So to all of our staff this year, teachers, everybody, thank you for what you do. Please keep up the good work. You're making a difference in a child's life, even if you don't know it now. So thank you to everybody. Also, I've heard from a number of parents about busing issues. I know Mr. Salas with the transportation department. Everybody else is working hard on getting that figured out. Please, please continue to be in touch though as we work through those issues. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Head. Mr. Smith?
Thank you. I want to echo the same thing that Spencer just said about our educators, our teachers, those secretaries, those staff people who are in our buildings working with our kids every day. You are greatly appreciated. Also wanted to make sure that I mention a special thank you to our security officers and our security guard, security personnel who make sure that our kids are in a safe learning environment, being able to work collectively and collaboratively with the building principals on providing just some strategic and communication things as a community person, community liaison, as things are going on in our community. We want to make sure that they remain in the community and they get fixed outside of our schools, and some of those problems don't boil over into our buildings. And so thank you to our security guard, our security teams, and building principals who have been very, very gracious and more than willing to listen and learn and figure out how we can continue to work together to make sure our students remain safe. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Ms. Cassidy?
Thank you, President Holman. I have 2 items tonight, kind of shout outs, if you will. I want to first make a shout out to the company Fiserv. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Fiserv. They used to be apparently First Data over on 73rd and Pacific. I had a gentleman there reach out to myself and actually to Ms. Juarez. Both of us got an email from him. He graduated a couple years under me from South High School, and so he just kind of, I think, reached out to a couple board members in his area that he could get in touch with. He wanted to let me know that at Fiserv, they decided to do kind of a little competition between departments to just bring in different school supplies and see which department within the company could have the most school supplies. So he sent me a picture of all these school supplies, and it was this huge pallet full of boxes. And thank you to Mr. Ray for helping to get that distribution and have him bring that all to the TAC building here. So they did drop it off, and it's a huge amount. I don't know exactly where it went because they instructed that they didn't want it to go to a specific school. They just wanted it to go to students and staff and wherever there was the most need. So it was a great surprise donation that I was glad to be a part of, kind of just the coordination of, but a big shout out to Fiserv and Gabriel Montavo Zaragoza, who reached out to myself and Ms. Juarez to make that happen. So thank you to them. Secondly, this is a really fun shout out. This is to E-Creamery. Yes, E-Creamery. So for those of you that are not familiar with our Omaha Public Schools Foundation, I am on the board of directors there. And if you're not familiar with our OPS our OPS Schools Foundation, please reach out. I would love to give you more information, but basically, teachers, students, it's a great, it's our foundation for our district. They are here to support for a lot of the extras that teachers need, that the schools need. They reach out, and the foundation has funds available for lots of different things. And part of how they were able to do that are some of our great community partners. And this month, a community partner is E-Creamery. So I opened the flyer so I can get this flavor correct. So the month of September is called Scoops of Support, and if you visit E-Creamery, you can actually get a flavor that they have created just for OPS. It's called, I guess they're just calling it Scoopfuls of Possibilities, and it is chocolate ice cream with cookie crunch, toffee pieces, and fudge swirls. And it's the cutest. I mean, if you've gone there before, they have their lovely little pint that you can buy, and it has OPS's logo on it and our foundation logo. So if you go, let me get this right here, I believe the entire month, when you buy a pint, $1 will go back to OPS for every pint that you buy the whole month of September. But if you go on the 22nd, that is the Scoops Day, if you will, 10% will go of anything that you buy from eCreamery will go back to the foundation, which obviously all comes back to all of our schools, all of our students, all of our teachers benefit from our foundation. So September 22nd, go that day, 10%, but the entire month, if you stop in, get yourself a pint of this ice cream. I haven't had it yet. Spencer did. He told me it was okay, but he's not a huge chocolate fan. So anyway, I just want to shout out again to eCreamery and thank them for partnering with our foundation. And again, if anyone has any questions about what the foundation does, please reach out to me, reach out to anyone at the foundation. We're happy to get you some more information on how we can help you this school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cassidy. Vice President Erdenberger.
Thank you, President Holman. I cannot restate more enthusiastically how excited I am about how the school year has been going so far. I know that there are some challenges that are primarily community-based that are, finding their way into our schools. But as far as I can tell, our staff and students and their families are all very happy about how this school year is going, and they're all working together to keep it that way. Speaking of which, of course, OPS is very interested in making sure our teacher pipeline is in place. And one of the things that I've mentioned before is that we have, as I understand it, the largest class of student teachers ever in the history of OPS, and I believe it's over 100 was the last number I heard. And so we are doing everything we can to thank our student teachers and to encourage them to decide to join the OPS team. Now, of course, the fact that they have to decide and join us in January, which is not when we're not at prime weather in January, but hopefully we will make their first semester so enjoyable that they will feel compelled to stick with us. The other thing that we're doing in their items 1.5 and 1.6 on the agenda are some programs that OPS is putting into place, hopefully using its federal COVID money, although the time periods on these two programs may extend past the current deadline. So it's my understanding we are asking for a waiver from the Nebraska Department of Education to be able to fund them with COVID money. Nonetheless, we are, as a district, are committed to them, so I'm excited to vote for them when we do our consent agenda. One of them is that for the next 4 years, we will be fully financing 25 teachers per semester. I believe I've got that right. Each September, 22, 23, 24, and 25, we will pay for up to 120 credit hours for 25 students, plus an annual stipend of $4,000 a semester. So if that doesn't make somebody want to be a teacher, I don't know what will. Plus all the smiling faces of our students. The other thing, so there's about $6.3 million that we're planning on spending on that effort. Item 1.6 is for our current teachers to fund, and we are planning on spending up to $7.6 million to help them do graduate work over the course of the next 3 or so years. And our goal is to get up to 245 teachers into that program to become dual credit endorsed. So one way or another, we're going to do everything we can to make the teaching profession as easy to enter as possible, because we already know that notwithstanding the enormous amount of hard work involved, it is, as I can personally attest, one of the most rewarding professions a person can be in. So just encouraging everybody to let us know if they want to be a teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Erdenberger. And I just wanted to quickly give a congratulations to Omaha Northwest High School. We have a finally officially established Omaha Northwest Foundation, so we were very excited about that. And also wanted to give a huge thank you to TOBA and Omaha Schools Foundation. As Tracy has already mentioned, they do so much for us, and TOBA was very instrumental in helping us to figure out things, and also for showing your support and guidance throughout this, and looking forward to the partnership with Omaha Schools Foundation. Okay, any other comments, colleagues? All right, great. Moving on now to public comment and recognition. Oops, I apologize. I almost forgot about school spotlight. Mr. Maskell, and he's standing there waiting so patiently. I apologize. Mr. Maskell, come on up. And team.
We are excited to celebrate.
Good
Thank you,
evening.
Dr. Holman. Good evening, Vice President Erdenberger, members of the board, and Superintendent Logan. Tonight's OPS Proud Spotlight to start the 2022-23 school year celebrates Stephanie Hazing, Social Work Administrator for the Omaha Public Schools. The Social Work Association of Nebraska selected Mrs. Hazing as their Social Worker of the Year. Please help me welcome Stephanie Hazing.
Good evening. Thank you so much. I am truly honored to be here this evening and to have accepted this award earlier in May. I've been with Omaha Public Schools for 15 years now, half of that as a social worker at Northwest High School, and then the second half of it in the very exciting role of school social work supervisor and watching our school social work program grow. My true passion is working with young people and families, and that's been my career for the last 25 years. I come from a very strong OPS proud family, all OPS graduates. My mother is a retired OPS principal. My sister's a principal, now a principal supervisor. My father was also a special education teacher in OPS during his time. And so I really appreciated the staff and my supervisor, Lisa Utterback, and the community in presenting me this award, and how well they kept it a secret. I really pride myself on not being surprised or not taken off guard, and I was completely floored by my entire family showing up. My son, who was a freshman in Lincoln, borrowed a friend's car to drive here and be here by 9 in the morning, which is kind of a big deal for a freshman in college. They don't usually get up before noon unless they absolutely have to. And then a huge shout out to District Communications for truly capturing my face of shock and awe. My sister now saves it as the family meme, so it's kind of a joke that she sends it around. So thank you, District Communications, for that. But in all honesty, it was one of the greatest honors I have had, and I have truly enjoyed my time with Omaha Public Schools and seeing the work that social workers are doing in the buildings on a daily basis with our students and families. So thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to be here tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Hazing. And again, I apologize for overlooking your wonderful spotlight, because you deserve it.
Well, thank you.
Colleagues, any questions? Vice President Erdenberger.
Congratulations, and as luck would have it, I've had 2 people this week tell me how wonderful you are, and I had no idea who you are. So
Good timing, I guess.
Very, very glad to put a face to the name, and like I said, congratulations, and your reputation precedes you. Thank you very much for your work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Dr. Logan?
During the pandemic, Mrs. Hazing and her team worked with many of the community organizations to distribute literally millions of dollars of rental assistance. They worked that summer. We actually now they are available in summertime, so we realize that's something we should have always been doing. But it really is your reach is not just to the Omaha Public Schools, but also to the greater Omaha community. And when we think about all the needs that our families have and the necessity of a safety net, your smiling face is right there in that safety net, and your dedication and expertise is really appreciated in ways that I'll never really be able to fully articulate. So, Stephanie, Mrs. Hazing, thank you so much for all you do. You are very deserving of the award.
Thank you. I truly appreciate it.
All right, thank you. We would like to give you a pound and a congratulations and offer you this OPS Proud pin. Can we all give her a hand, please? Thank you so much. And then we'll also take your photo.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you.
Okie dokie. Now moving on to public comment. Tonight we have 3 speakers who have submitted requests to speak forms. The board has adopted policy 8346, which provides public comment for a period of 1 hour. The same policy limits individual speakers to a maximum of 5 minutes, and we ask that you respect that time limit. Mr. Ray will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining and also when you have 30 seconds remaining. If you are in need of an interpreter, please let Mr. Ray know and one will be provided for you. If the subject of your public comment is related to a particular student or staff member, we ask that you not identify the student or staff member and instead provide that information to Mr. Ray. He will assist us into looking into those types of specifics for you. If you do not get the opportunity to speak tonight and you would like to submit any written commentary, please also provide that to Mr. Ray. He will make sure that each member of the board receives a copy. As a reminder, with the passage of LB 83 last year by Nebraska legislature, the Board of Education is legally obligated to require any member of the public desiring to address the board to identify themselves, including an address and the name of any organization that you might represent, unless the requirement is waived for security reasons. Tonight, Ms. Michaela Kaiser has requested that the board waive the requirement that her name and address at the podium for security reasons be waived. I will entertain a motion right now to waive the requirement for Ms. Kaiser to not state her address at the podium.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Head. Is there a second? Okay, moving on now. So Ms. Kaiser, you will have to state your address for tonight. We ask that all individuals please state and spell your first and last name, state your current address, and let us know if you are here representing any particular organization before you begin your public comment tonight. In addition, we ask that you remain seated until called to the podium, and please remain at the podium and do not approach the board table. If you have materials to distribute, please let Mr. Ray know and he will come and get them from you. It is now 6:33 p.m. and our first speaker tonight is Kevin Harris Maley. Hello, good evening.
Oh, hello everyone. My name is Kevin Harris Maley, and I live at 12238 Woolworth Avenue, Omaha, Nebraska, 68144. And I am not representing any organization. Just,
okay, could you spell your
myself.
name for us as well, please?
Oh, sure.
Thank
Kevin,
you.
so Kevin, and then Harris, Harris, and Maley, Mayle. Cool.
You may begin.
Oh, thank you. Well, first, I'd just like to say thank you for having the opportunity to come and talk to you guys. Thanks for all the work you guys are doing. I know it's got to be kind of hard to be overseeing a whole school district, so thank you. I appreciate you guys. The reason I'm here tonight was just to kind of talk about an issue and then also maybe just see if there was some help that we could get for the board on this. I was wanting to talk a little bit about bullying in schools. So I have 4 children. I won't name their names because I'm not supposed to, but I have 4 children who are lucky to be in the Omaha public schools. 2 7th graders, a 6th grader, and a 1st grader. And the teachers, staff, principals, everyone that we have encountered all through the years has been wonderful and very helpful, very good team of people, and everyone's hearts are in the right place. 2 of my children we fostered them and then we adopted them about 1.5 years ago, and they've been with us for 3 years. Any bullying we've encountered over the years has been pretty standard, nothing major, maybe one bully that came from a bad home or something and is angry and no big deal. And the Omaha, policy that guides the protocol of what to do is pretty clear, no props. But one of my girls that we adopted who's in 7th grade kind of is finding herself in a kind of a particular kind of bullying situation. It's not your standard like 1 or 2 bullies. It's kind of a thing where she's been kind of identified by, she feels like it's the whole class or multiple classes, and she just gets kind of a barrage of negative comments for a large part of the day. The other day I asked her just to kind of jot down kind of what was being said and when, not any names, but just so I could get a sense of what she was dealing with. And so I have it here. I should have made copies. But anyway, this was from Tuesday, September 6th, and there's 28 incidents on there of people saying, ooh, you're disgusting, just whatever kids say, but it's not very nice. And it started in the morning and went all throughout the day, so it wasn't like an isolated thing. And so, my family and I, we've been working with, the principal and the counselors, and they're all awesome. And so in doing this, we're coming up with some plans on things to do. I talked to the coaches, we're thinking about maybe putting together a support group for kids that are in this situation. And I'm a parent, so I was like, I'll do whatever it takes, sponsor the club, bring pizza, whatever. The principal also mentioned maybe switching her classes around, but my daughter felt like she kind of likes her classes, and she didn't really want to do that. So we're putting together some things. The reason I came to the board with it was actually at the suggestion of the vice principal, because as we were looking through what the policy was, it was pretty clear in certain cases of bullying, but it was a little bit unclear in these kind of cases of bullying. If it was if it was one child bullying or 2, you'd just say, here's the thing. But when it's almost feels like, 28 different kids in a day. And
1 minute.
Oh, yes. So they were a little bit unclear of what specifically to do, and we're kind of brainstorming it, but we thought maybe with your guys' help that maybe we could have, revisit the policy 5415, the prevention policy, as well as the student code of conduct, and just, because if you're caught with drugs, it's very clear, but these cases, it's the teachers are a little bit also feeling a little like they're not quite sure what to do or how to deal with it. And so
30 seconds.
And so, yeah, maybe just as a group, if you guys could kind of chat about that and kind of see if there's maybe some, not policy changes, but policy maybe add on to that for this kind of bullying. And then also maybe there might be some resources that might need to be, I'm sure there's plenty of resources already put towards this, but maybe some more that's specifically looking at these kind of cases, and it's usually the vulnerable kids, the foster kids, the kids.
That's time.
Thank you.
Ms. Utterback is going to see you. No, Ms. Utterback is going to see you in the back. The Chief of Student Services is going to see you right in the back.
Thanks. Next on the agenda tonight, we have Michaela Kaiser. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Michaela Kazor, Michaela Kazor, and my address is 11619 Grand Avenue, Omaha, Nebraska. And tonight I am speaking on the perverse guidelines called Gender Identity Equity Guidelines. But before I state what these guidelines say, I would like the general public to know who I am so that they do not misinterpret what I'm about to say. I'm a 17-year-old college student who grew up in the public school system until halfway through my freshman year of high school. While I attended high school, I experienced things that no 15-year-old child should ever have to experience. And although I did not grow up in OPS, I would like the public to know that my high school principal is now a principal at OPS. Here are only a few examples as to what I experienced during high school alone. In my history class, my teacher would constantly attack my religious beliefs with her unbiblical opinions. The class was seeded with un-American and anti-God ideologies instead of teaching the facts of history. When I took my complaint to the assistant principal, I was ganged up on and completely shut down. When I was walking out of math class, I saw a drag queen that was allowed to walk around in clothing that exposed the chest and bra that the drag queen was wearing. The library would constantly have MSNBC on, which is a radical left-wing news channel, but they would never have a right-wing news channel on. Teachers would have pictures on their walls of gay people kissing, but I don't recall one picture of a straight couple kissing. These are only a few examples as to what I experienced in high school, and the result of this was being pulled out of school because this caused me to develop major anxiety that my parents had no other choice but to pull me. They pulled me to protect me from this evil ideology. The school system promotes and pushes this agenda thinking that they're helping their students, but this ideology is doing nothing more but hurting and failing these kids. How do I know? Because that's what it did for me. This is what I experienced in the public school system, and although I'm not 100% sure if the guidelines that OPS has was in the school district I attended, it disgusts me to see the perverse agenda that OPS is pushing in schools starting in kindergarten. OPS created guidelines on December 28, 2017, called Gender Identity Equity Guidelines. It begins by stating the definition of sex, gender, gender identity, gender expression, gender expansion, transgender, transitioning, non-binary, and gender fluid. The guidelines state these terms are ever-changing and evolving with society and the communities they represent. The next part of these guidelines that is extremely alarming is under the section nouns/pronouns. These guidelines state all employees should respect names and pronouns. Any employee or student who intentionally or persistently refuses to respect the gender identity of a student after notification of the preferred pronoun/name used by the student is in violation of the guideline. In this section, it is also stated, neither a court-ordered name or a gender change, nor a change in the official student records is required. I believe every person has the right to be respected, but under no circumstances should a student be pressured and threatened to be punished if they want to stand for their biblical values that state that there is only a man and a female, there's no in between. Are these guidelines stating that those who stand for biblical rights are in violation of the guidelines and will be punished? If so, you are violating the First Amendment of the United States Constitution that states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The guidelines continue with, in situations where students are segregated by gender, such as health education classes and royalty, students will be included in the group that corresponds to the student's gender identity.
1 minute.
Students shall have access to the restroom that corresponds to the student's gender identity consistently asserted in the school environment. Under no circumstances may students be required to use gender-segregated facilities that are inconsistent with their gender identity. In no case shall a transgender student be required to use a locker room that conflicts with their student's gender identity. It is absolutely perverted and disgusting that you are willing to exploit young girls and boys in order to push this
30
left-wing
seconds.
liberal agenda. I'm a 17-year-old female, and I would be absolutely violated to know that the schools are letting boys in my locker rooms and bathrooms. Doesn't all students' voices matter? If you ignore this fundamental question, you are showing that you believe only a certain group of students matter.
Thank you. Next, we have Donnie Johnson. Come on up, Mr. Johnson.
I thought the Boston Tea Party started before November.
Good evening, Mr. Johnson.
Good afternoon, or evening, Mrs. Savannah Holman. Donnie R. Johnson, 4928 North 52nd, the Johnson and Question Foundation, North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation. As I was thinking of Senator Brooks,
Would you spell your name for us as well, please?
I got like 4 different spellings. Because of all this identity theft, I kept changing my name. So which one do I?
Just spell the one that says Donnie Johnson on your paper.
Donnie. I was
Johnson?
thinking about Senator Brooks and
Johnson? Would you spell
Johnson?
Johnson?
Well, we had to change that in Texas as well.
Okay, but that's what's on your paper, so that's what I need to be spelled.
Johnson with an S or Johnson with just Johnsson?
That's fine. Thank you.
Back to Senator Brooks and Booker T. Washington, Dr. Logan, I'm sorry. I keep thinking about that when I was studying in Washington, D.C. and New York. So is Senator Brooks your cousin or Booker T. Washington? Okay. I keep seeing that as I was, when I was studying in Washington, D.C., I seen that process of studying with Senator Zirinsky. Anyway, I was going to share some input that they have given us throughout the years in my position in OPS. 1987, 30 years has come and gone since Ronald Reagan was President of the United States of America. President Reagan asked air traffic controllers do not go on strike. They did. He fired them all and replaced them. 1985, there was 8 or 9 beef packing or cattle slaughtering business in South Omaha. Yet no more than one is still in business. However, the citizens in South Omaha are doing a wonderful job developing their economy. And my reason for appearing to speak about past problems, those men and women fired by President Reagan for striking haven't had a paycheck for at least 30 years. Some found other jobs, yet the paycheck wasn't the same. North Omaha African American gentlemen haven't received a paycheck that pays them extremely good wages dating back 30 to 35 years. After they went on strike one time too many. So says the meatpacking plant and the Cattlemen's Association. They packed their bags and left. South Omaha, leaving South Omaha, extremely hardship for replacement of problem blue-collar jobs. That problem continues to be a major problem today. In closing, over the years gone by, I finally understand why so many of my teachers here in Omaha, Nebraska, year after year, focus on President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the New Deal, bringing America out of the Great Depression. And I now understand this one word in the New Deal. You can't miss it. It's in bold letters, page after page. You read about this one word, and I couldn't understand compromise, but I do today. It saved America. 30 years without a paycheck is a very long time, my dear friends. Good luck.
Thank you. Okay, moving on now to the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda that is before us.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Thielen,
Second.
second by Mr. Smith. Any abstentions? Ms. Cassidy?
Yes, it is I again. I'm abstaining from item I-12. Claim C, please.
All right. We have an abstention from Ms. Cassidy, item I-12. Roll call, Mr. Ray?
Cassidy,
Aye.
Erdenberger,
Aye.
Head,
Aye.
Holman,
Aye.
Juarez,
Aye.
Gracke,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Thielen,
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion carries. Moving on now to information items. Item J2A, opening of the 2022-2023 school year. Dr. Logan.
Good evening again, President Holman, Vice President Ordenberger, members of the board, and those here in attendance and watching the stream. Tonight, I'm going to give you some brief information regarding the opening of the 2022-2023 school year. General impressions are that school opened more calmly this year than last. Some of the magic that students brought back after being at home for a long time, some of that magic disappeared, and the real magic, the magic that we love around teaching and learning, has emerged during the beginning of the school year. That being said, some of the impacts of some community events are impacting schools, especially our high schools, in terms of some safety concerns that our high school leaders and security teams and parents and students are doing a really excellent job of making sure that they follow those 4 tenets that we sent home in a letter last week, in terms of making sure that they are vigilant, that every safety is all of our concern, to make sure that if they see something, to say something, and that we all have a role to play in the safety of our school buildings and our students. In terms of enrollment, we see that our current enrollment stands at 51,449 students. Compared to last year, we see a decrease in our secondary schools. High school is actually up 0.1%, and middle school is down 3.9%. We are not sure if that can be attributed to the fact that we did shift some of our middle school students from middle school to elementary. Membership at elementary schools has increased by 1.3%. Our kindergarten count is down 92 students from the year before. Our kindergarten numbers always reflect birth rates. Official membership for NDE reporting will be recorded on October 1 of 2022. One other observation I can share with you is that school districts like ours, who receive a lot of students, migrants, refugees, and students who come here from other countries, typically do not have peak enrollment in September. That peak enrollment is later in the school year, sometime between November and March. In terms of family engagement, as we move forward to through the school year, we do see us returning to pre-pandemic activities and events. Earlier, I talked about OPS Proud Week. That is next week. Many schools will have some of the activities that people are very much accustomed to, whether they be a skate party. I know that somebody had a skate party tonight. I believe it was Miss Catlett at Spring Lake. She called me this afternoon and to talk about some things and share that they were having a skate party this afternoon as well. Some of those other events that we have had as a school district were the Back to School Bash on I'm sorry, was that August 9th? I can't remember the date. It was Saturday, and the second Saturday in August, where we had Jose Hernandez on that Saturday, and then on that Friday evening. This was actually his second time to our school district. He came my first year here. And we plan to have additional activities and guest speakers for our parents, where parents can be inspired to hear how education has impacted a particular guest speaker, and how they can use that person's experience to enhance their parenting skills. That also includes open houses, family literacy nights, math nights, conferences that start next month, family school partnerships, advisory committees, and curriculum adoption committees. Parents as well, I've heard from you loud and clear that there are 3 4-day weeks in a row in September, and parents have been stopped me at the grocery store and at the farmer's market to let me know how they feel about that, and that may result in us making some recommendations to the board at some later point. But I do want to make sure that I do mention that we do have 3 4-day weeks in a row for our young people as we start school. In terms of hiring, this next slide reflects Our hiring since July 1. As you can see, we've hired a number of substitute teachers, 136, and secondary, elementary, and special education. Our largest number of folks that we have hired are 212 paraprofessionals, and we still need bus drivers, and bus aides. Bus drivers, the lack of bus drivers all over the country is severely impacting the ability of school districts to include ours. We have hired several safety folks, although we do continue to have some vacancies for security guards. We are better positioned now than we were on July 1, and we'll continue to hire that, and then 49 folks in operations. As you can see, there's been a kind of a limited change since our August Board of Education update. We do continue to review class sizes at all levels. We do have a few large classes, and I say that respectfully because if you're a teacher that has one of those large classes, I don't want it to make it to minimize that at all. In our elementary schools, we are well positioned with our class sizes. As I've visited about 40 schools to date, and every time I enter a class, the first thing I do is count how many people, whether they're little or big, are in those classes. We see an impact in our high schools, especially at our two new high schools, Westview and Buena Vista. They both are higher than their projection, as we anticipated that students who initially thought that they wanted to stay at their current school have made the choice to transition to their new school, whether it be Westview or Buena Vista, and we certainly expect that to continue. Our current focus is on hiring classified staff, and we continue our staff retention work. In August, we began a work group with many of our many district leaders and folks and representing all employee classes, whether they are certified or classified in a certified class or a classified class, and our labor partners to do work on improving staff morale and ideas to bring more joy back into the workplace, something that we have all missed during the pandemic years. In terms of transportation, the routes covered by Omaha Public Schools, 86% are covered by a permanent driver. This is all students who receive special education. The number reported to me is 95% on-time service daily. I am going to dig into that number because that does not reflect the anecdotal things that I've heard. So I'm going to make sure that I dig into that and provide the Board of Education a more detailed breakdown of how we got to that number. And then the routes staffed by Student Transportation of America, we have 84% covered. This has been a huge area of challenge for us in terms of our contractor, with STA. And of course, they're a valued partner. We want to continue to work with them, but we have been disappointed by the level of service that we have received, especially in light of the fact that we've been meeting with them throughout the summer, and as late as the day before, actually, some students started, now that I think about it, and 2 days before school started. So that's an area of concern for us in terms of the level of service, and especially in light of what we pay in remuneration to Student Transportation of America. And in terms of communication, we do see increase in questions to call center. We did make some adjustments to the kinds of information that the call center needed that they did not have access to. So that was an ask from STA to improve that service, and as well as the effective use of Here Comes the Bus app as well. We were all very excited about getting Here Comes the Bus when we got it a few years ago, and then when you have a driver shortage and the routes are changing constantly, the accuracy is not what it could be, and that is also a pain point for us as a school district as we work with our partner. And in all fairness, the driver shortage is acute and is shared by every school district in the United States of America. And so while that may not make anybody, doesn't make me feel any better, it is something that we do not believe it is anything, and we know that it's not anything that they are doing. The model of when people are going to work and the folks that were available to do that kind of work, retirees, et cetera, those folks are not as available anymore. And that's what it is. And so folks who are available in the morning then can take a break, and then available in the afternoon, that pool has shrunk. Again, if there are folks out there who are available, we encourage you. We will pay for you to get your CDL, and hope and encourage you to stay with us. There is a bonus for folks who sign on. After a few months, you get a bonus in addition to the $4,500 stipend that all staff are receiving. There's an additional bonus for our drivers after, is it 6 months? Do I have that correct, Mr. Wakefield? So, sorry? Oh, it's staggered. Okay, they stagger that. I guess they've learned some things over the years, so that is staggered to encourage folks to stay as bus drivers. That's where we are. In terms of some of the nuts and bolts, I shared some of the general impressions as we open school, and those are shared by our school leaders as we visit with them, and they give us feedback on how things are going in their schools. Again, some community impacts with our high schools that our high school leaders are doing a tremendous job, and some days it is literally 24/7, along with our TAC-based security team that we just recently expanded to provide an individual to work with students who are transitioning from one school to another and may have some challenges associated with their transition. So that ends my update for the evening. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take those now.
Thank you, Dr. Logan. Colleagues? Vice President Erdenberger?
Dr. Logan, I know that you've been very busy visiting all of our schools, and I'm wondering if you have a tally on how many schools you have visited since school started at this point.
Yeah, I want to say it's about 40, 41 or so. I typically post once I visited, I post, I got this new app called Pic Collage, and so I typically take photos and post after some schools I did miss. I did not get to do that, but for many that I do that, and a couple I've been back to those schools multiple times to visit with staff or to check on something. But have been to a lot of schools. Plan to visit King Science Middle School tomorrow morning after hearing from their principal about how she was excited about how much better things were going this year. I'm very happy for her as a second-year principal.
Excellent. And I know that right before school started, you had as a priority that I believe it was Ms. Utterback was going to count desks in every classroom, if I remember. And I thought that was a good start to the school year, because nothing is more irritating than not having enough desks.
Not having enough desks. Well, it actually didn't turn out to be Ms. Utterback. Actually, it was Mr. Wakefield and his team, and actually our high school leaders were making sure that we had enough desks in each room. We felt that was it was an easy win to make sure that there were enough desks. And again, we don't want to make light of folks who have a large class. One of the things that we did do, and I want to thank our principal supervisor, Tom Wagner, was to look at not just, and Mrs. Christofferson as well, to look at not just the class size for one particular class, but look at what the entire teacher load was to make sure that we didn't have folks with, if there's 6 of 8, and about 4 of them are extra large. So there was a lot of work done to do that. School leaders balancing classes, the data processors in schools have done a lot of that to make sure. And one last thing, and and one of the things that we shared was that we aren't able to offer classes that have 3 students in them. But one of the wonderful things that our team did, and they did it very rapidly in terms of innovation, was to have one teacher in a school teach the course, and students from several other schools can sign on to the course. And then we worked with our labor partner to make sure that we were compensating the teacher for the extra work that is involved in having students in multiple locations. So that work was lifted very quickly by the team, and we continue to explore some of the other resources that we have in the state of Nebraska, like the University of Nebraska Lincoln High School, that offer courses that we could potentially have our students take. We there was a Latin issue at one of our high schools, and we were working to get that solved, and then the students said they didn't want to take it. So I shouldn't say that they didn't want to take it. I should say they had moved on to other courses that they liked. And so that was not something, but we are exploring it for the next semester. So roll up your sleeves, throw up your hands or roll up your sleeves. The team has rolled up their sleeves, and this is our teachers, our school-based staff, our school leaders, who have taken on the challenge of leading in a worldwide labor shortage to make sure that students and their families get what they need from the Omaha Public Schools. It really is remarkable. Just even the sheer number of folks that have been hired. If you come to the TAC building on any day, you will see human resources bustling. And recently, earlier this week, I went in a classroom where folks were training to be paraprofessionals, just to say hi and talk to them about their upcoming journey. And it really is, when a community has a need, the Omaha Public Schools community has shown how much they care about their young people, and they are coalescing in all kinds of efforts around the city as we deal with a teacher shortage and an overall labor shortage. So thank you. Long-winded answer.
Thank you. Mrs. Crackey?
I would just like to add that was very good and thorough report, and I'm sure that the people listening and teachers out there and parents all appreciated the depth of what you went into. It wasn't just a surface thing. You kind of went and further to tell us you have problems, you know what they are, and you are doing your best to address them. So for the people out there that have already had those problems, they are being addressed. I talked to one parent that I followed up with from last year, and she was so grateful and surprised that I followed up. I did that because her name was there on the paper in front of me, and I remembered. So I gave her a call, and everything was going so much better, and everybody was working together. So I really appreciate that long and informative report that you just gave us, because it covered a lot of territory. Thank you.
Ms. Cassidy?
Thank you, President Holman. First of all, thank you, Dr. Logan. Great recap, almost like a state of the beginning of school, but it's good to see all those numbers. I just want to comment on the transportation piece, because it's been challenging, we know, but I do want to say that today was the very first day that my app actually worked. Every day I hit it, and I'm like, okay, well, it shows my bus is all the way at, like, by Boys Town, but it arrives 2 minutes later. So I know it's not correct, but it's okay. I know that, it takes time for all of the bugs to come out of that this year, and I know the focus is not on making sure that app works. It's more on hiring drivers. So I just want to say, first of all, to those folks that are contemplating driving, the folks that are out there driving, the impact you have on our students is incredible. Every day when my daughter gets home, the first thing she tells me about was her bus ride, which is kind of funny. She always tells me how great her bus ride was. So Mike, you're out there if you're listening, you're doing a great job. He's a brand new driver for OPS this year. He's relatively on time almost every morning, and I will tell you, to any drivers out there that are driving in the South Omaha area, I sympathize with you, because I'm not sure who in the city, whether it's the City of Omaha Department of Transportation or Nebraska Department of Transportation, whoever plans when they're going to be doing construction. Whoever decided to do construction by the L Street and Q Street exit a week before school started at South High School, Gomez Heritage, Spring Lake, all of my schools that surround that area, not a good move. All of my parents will sympathize, but all of the drivers in that area, I know that they're dealing with that heavy construction, specifically around South High School. There is construction all the way around that school. Every single block around South High School has barricades. So drivers that are out there, keep up the good work. We hope that more are encouraged to find time in their schedules to do this. I know it's not an easy job, so I just want to thank the drivers that are out there and thank STA for their efforts, because I know it's got to be really tough. As Dr. Logan stated, it's not just Omaha Public Schools. I just saw a story yesterday on Good Morning America about the same issue. It's everywhere, it's real, and it's really tough. So drivers out there, keep it up. And again, South Omaha. L Street exit every morning. Thank you.
I'm just jealous that your bus app worked this morning. Thank you, Mr. Cassidy. Colleagues? All righty then. Moving on now to item J2B, Accountability Committee update. And I will be sharing that information. The Accountability Committee has been meeting pretty regularly this past month, along with Dr. Logan in the development of her goals for this year. And just as a reminder, colleagues, and for the public, the goals are one that she wants to focus on, one that the board would like for her to focus on, and then a shared goal that we come up with together. And just for you all's knowledge, we have finally gotten to the point where we have these 3 goals, and probably either later on tonight or tomorrow morning, those will be sent to you all just for your review so that you know what those goals and those indicators will be for this year. Our last meeting was on August the 22nd, and Mrs. Crackey, Mrs. Juarez, Mr. Smith, and myself were in attendance, along with Mr. Ray as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know, and we can definitely get you any answers that you need. Anything right away that you have any questions about? All right, so be looking forward to those, the goals later on tonight or early tomorrow morning. Moving on now to item J2C, Budget and Audit Committee update. Lucky you get to hear my voice again. We had our last meeting on August the 25th. In attendance, Dr. Holman, Mr. Head, Mr. Snow, and Mr. Thielen. We also had our wonderful budget team, Mr. Ryan, Ms. Rykowski, and Mr. Ray was also in attendance. For the 2021-2022 full year reforecast was shared. They presented the budget for the remainder of the fiscal year. The budget favorability is expected to be $68.8 million with significant favorability in salaries and benefits, transportation, and one-time projects. The ending unassigned general fund balance is expected to be about 19.9% less than the board maximum policy of 20%. For the 2022-23 budget upcoming activities, and I know some of this information is just a repeat from our budget hearing this morning, but I want to make sure that in case you weren't able to attend the meeting, that you're able to hear this information. Management provided the committee an overview of the proposed budget for all funds for the 2022-23 year. The total budget for all funds will be $1.4 billion, and that's $13.1 million less than 21-22 year. The general fund budget will be increasing $20 million or 2.9% from our $690 million to $710 million. The projected unassigned general fund balance will be 19.6% at the end of the 2022-23 year, within board policy reserve levels of 10 and 20%. The total property tax levy will decrease slightly with the end of payments related to the 2018 early leave incentive program, and this will be the 3rd consecutive year with levy decreases. Certified property valuations for the district are up about 7.5%. Some upcoming key dates, we have our small group workshops for board members on August 29th and 30th. The Omaha Public Schools public budget hearing will be today, September the 8th, and then that was just before our board meeting today. We have our joint public hearing on September the 21st, and our board meeting to approve the budgets and levies will be held on September the 22nd. With regards to our excess cash reserves projects, we reviewed progress on the additional projects included in this year's budget that utilize the excess cash reserves from the prior year. $29 million have been spent year to date versus a budget of $41 million, and supplies and materials for the new schools have been significantly less than originally projected. So that's all that I have to share. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to let Mr. Ray or Mr. Ryan know, and we'll get you that information. Moving on now to item J2D, OSER's Ad Hoc Board Committee Update. Vice President Erdenberger.
Thank you, President Holman. We did have a ad hoc meeting today, attended by board members, Mr. Head, Ms. Cassidy, and yourself, and several key members of the OPS, the district staff, but in addition, a couple guest attendees. One was former State Senator Pat Bourne, who is the chair of the Transition Trustees, Board of Trustees, and so he joined us, and a new member of the OSER's staff, so to speak, Mr. Tyler Cumming, who is learning the OSER's ropes in connection with the ultimate transition of the administration of OSER's to NPERS in September 1 of 2024. OPS and OSER's representatives continue to have monthly steering committee meetings, and I've tried to write down the list of people that are on that committee, and it's probably about 10 people, it sounds like, and they are all sort of anticipating what sorts of issues might come up and trying to answer them before they get there. The notes that were put together by Ms. Carter was they try to ferret through their service deliverables, which is, I think, sort of a probably accurate way of putting it. Last month, that would be August, the state of Nebraska, some would say finally, issued an RFP to identify a transition management company to assist NPERS with the mechanics of transitioning the administration of OSERS into NPERS. It is hoped that that contract will be awarded, if not in December of this year, then early in 2023, and a copy of it can be found on the Nebraska Department of Administrative Services Bid Opportunities website. As we get closer to the transition date and have identified more issues and frankly have our transition management company in place, we will be able to identify specific steps as they are addressed. Again, the ultimate transition will be completed on September 1 of 2024. Most importantly, the transition of the administration of OSER's pension plan does not constitute a merger of the plans. The OSER's plan will be administered as a separate pension plan. I know that the OSER's investments are currently being invested and returns tracked separately from all of the other pension plans being administered at the state level. So OSER's will continue to be a separate pension plan, both investment and administration-wise. For the time being, the services will continue to be the same, and like I said, the transition will be completed on September 1 of 2024. In addition, I would like to take a moment to give a shout out to Ms. Cecilia Carter, who has been heading the OSER's program for the last, what did we decide today, 5-6 years, something like that. And she came on board shortly, or roughly at the same time as some of the issues related to OSERS were identified. So she has been there for the transfer of the investments down to the state level and the initial momentum set for the transfer of administration. She has, in my experience, been more than helpful, more than professional, always ahead of the game, very useful to the OSERS board in terms of providing reports and information as needed. So she will be missed, and I can only hope that she will have a wonderful next step in her life as she moves to Kansas City. So thank you, Cecilia, if you're out there.
Thank you, Vice President Erdenberger. Next, we have item J2E, Policy Committee Update. Mr. Thielen.
Thank you, Dr. Holman. Just kind of as a reminder of how the policy committee agenda gets made, we do try to review all of the policies on a schedule, so it's kind of shuffled through. We get a set of policies at each of our meetings that we try to move through so that on a, around a 5-year, 7-year cycle, all of the policies do get some eyeballs on them and some attention. So in our last meeting on August 25th, committee, Ms. Erdenberger, Mr. Snow, and myself, and Dr. Holman was also present. We started discussion of policies 5419 through 5426. These look to be so far that like we're going to have some pretty just technical changes, nothing significant in terms of policy, but they're out to staff to see if there are any changes that staff would request as well. We also covered policy 4007, the leave policy, so we can get that edition of June 19th into the actual policy. You'll see that soon. And we made a technical change to 8273, so you'll see that again soon with the number of days that board members can miss. That's a statutory change that we needed to catch up on. And then we revisited 8346, which is participation in board meetings, and we're taking another look at exactly what should be in that policy. We've got a few others that are kind of in our parking lot that we continue to work on, but nothing to vote on or report out at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thielen. Moving on now to receipt of reports. We have 2 reports on the agenda this evening. Item K1, fourth quarter board conference expenses from 2021 and 2022. And then item K2, update on environmental sustainability plan development as part of the strategic plan of action priority 4, ethic of care. Moving on now to closed session. Vice President Erdenberger.
I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, Mr. Charles Wakefield, and legal counsel, real estate negotiations and legal advice.
I have a motion to go into closed session by Vice President Erdenberger. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Head. Roll call, Mr. Ray.
Erdenberger,
Aye.
Head,
Aye.
Holman,
Aye.
Juarez,
Aye.
Cracky,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Snow,
Aye.
Thielen,
Aye.
Cassidy.
Aye.
9, aye.
Motion carries. Let me remind the board that the purpose for closed session is for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, Charles Wakefield, and legal counsel, real estate, negotiations, and legal advice. Let the record reflect that the board went into closed session at 7:24 p.m.
Let the record reflect that the board came out of closed session at 7:55 p.m. Meeting adjourned.